Good afternoon to our viewers on the East Coast. Good morning to all of you in other parts of the US, and good evening to Europe and Africa. I am Joel Fishman, President of the Public Diplomacy Association of America. On behalf of PDAA, the Public Diplomacy Council, and the USC Annenberg Center on Communication Leadership and Policy, welcome to the April 2021 First Monday. Our tech host today is PDC Rising professional Alastair Somerville. If you are experiencing a problem during our program today, please address it to Alastair. That's Alastair Somerville in the chat box. In this season of renewal and redemption, we are bringing you a change of pace today. For more, I turn the program over to Adam Powell, who organized and will moderate today's program. Adam is a former president of the Public Diplomacy Council and currently executive director of the USC Elections Cybersecurity Initiative. Over to you, Adam.
Thank you, Joel, and welcome to Hip Hop Diplomacy and how American public diplomacy leverages popular culture. We have participants on 3 continents, and before we get to our discussion though, let's take a minute to watch how one American ambassador this year used rap video to send his holiday greeting to a huge audience.
For introductions already. Hi, my name is Dan. I'm from Nebraska. I'm not a big city boy. Then 3 years ago, I moved to Hanoi. Check the calendar, Ted is coming soon. Kanta and Da Nang are in the mood. Suan, oi, suan dave. Clean the house now, friends are on the way. Grab the Hua Mai and Hua Dao. Get ready to party from Ha Zong to Cam Mau. Ted in Vietnam is the tops. I love the hot spots and hot pots. I drink Cafe Sudan, not cappuccinos. Bring Lisi with me everywhere that we go. Cash for the kids, blessings for the family, love for my parents and everyone around me. Now my been on from mine to yours, from my shores to your shores, our friendship endures. US and Vietnam, from now to forever, we're trusted partners, prospering together. Chúc mừng năm môi from your boy in Hanoi. Chúc mừng năm môi, spread the joy. Chúc mừng năm môi, khắp mời nơi. Tết, Tết, Tết đến rồi!
Now look at where this was picked up. This video is actually from the South China Morning Post, but it was picked up all over and became one of the more popular messages from the United States throughout Asia. Well, for the next part of our program, we're going to turn to Mark Katz, who is the John Barker Distinguished Professor of Music at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He's also founding director of the Hip Hop Cultural Diplomacy Program, Next Level. His books include Capturing Sound, How Technology Has Changed Music, Groove Music, The Art and Culture of Hip Hop DJ, and Build, The Power of Hip Hop Diplomacy in a Divided World. His scholarship focuses on music and technology, hip hop, cultural diplomacy, and the violin. He's the recipient of the Royal Music Association's Dent Medal for his contributions to musicology, and his latest book, Music and Technology, a very short introduction will be published later this year. So now let's go to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and Mark Katz. Mark.
Thanks so much, Adam. We're really delighted to be part of the First Monday Forum, and we're grateful to the Public Diplomacy Council, the Public Diplomacy Association of America, and USC's Center on Communication Leadership and Policy for sponsoring this series. So our topic today is hip hop diplomacy, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with 3 amazing artists, Junious, Brickhouse, Jemimah, Angulu, and Double M. And the 4 of us are all connected through a program called Next Level. So it's a name you'll be hearing a lot today. Next Level is a program that comes out of the State Department's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, known as ECA, as most of you realize, and is managed by Meridian International Center with assistance from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, which is where I am right now. In fact, if you're wondering, this is the Beat Lab at UNC, and it's where students and visiting artists come to create and perform hip hop and other forms of music. So Next Level is an international exchange and diplomacy program that focuses on building global community through hip hop culture. So as Adam mentioned, I was the founding director of Next Level, and I served in that capacity until 2019. So I'll now introduce our other guests. Junious Brickhouse is the current director of Next Level. He is a dance educator, choreographer, and community leader, as well as cultural preservationist. And he is the founder and director of Urban Artistry Incorporated. So Junious, hello and welcome.
Peace and blessings, Mark. It's good to be with you here today. How are you, sir?
Very good, very good. Next, we have Jemimah Angulu, who is a dancer, choreographer, teacher, and the artistic director and founder of the Crump Dance Studios in Abuja, Nigeria, where she is right now. In 2019, she was selected by the US Department of State to participate in the Next Level Global Cultural Diplomacy Program and spent 2 weeks in the United States in an artistic and professional development program. So Mima, hello, greetings.
Hello, greetings everyone. It's such an honor being here. I look forward to chatting about hip hop and diplomacy with everyone.
Thank you, Mima. And last we have Atala Mohammed, also known as Double M, and that's how I'll be referring to him today. And Double M is a beatboxer, singer, and songwriter from Oujda, Morocco. And like Mima, he was selected by the US Department of State to participate in the Next Level Global Cultural Diplomacy Program, and also spent 2 weeks in the United States in 2018. So Double M, hello.
Peace, everyone. I hope everyone is doing great. I'm very happy to be with you all today, and I'm looking forward to have great discussions with you all about hip hop diplomacy. So thank you so much, Mark, and thank you everyone for being.
Thank you, Double M, and we're looking forward to some performances by Mima and Double M, which will come in a little bit. But first, before we open up the conversation, I want to explain what exactly hip hop diplomacy is and say a few words about Next Level. So hip hop diplomacy is not actually an official term that's used by the State Department. Rather, it's one manifestation of cultural diplomacy programming. Simply put, in hip hop diplomacy, it's hip hop, art, and culture that serve as the common ground that bring people together and helps promote mutual understanding among people of different nations. State Department has been doing programming in hip hop for about 20 years now. And its first real foray into hip hop diplomacy was in 2001, when ECA sent rapper and poet Tony Blackman to Ghana and Senegal. And then for the next dozen years, ECA sent scores of US hip hop artists around the world to perform and teach. Then in 2013, they put out a call for proposals to create a program devoted solely to hip hop. And that's when Next Level was born. And Next Level was established in 2013 and started sending US hip hop artist educators around the world in 2014. Our first residency was in India. And since then, Next Level has sent over 100 US hip hop artist educators to more than 30 countries. And it has also brought a few dozen international hip hop artists like Mima and Double M to the United States. Our last residency was in Bolivia in March 2020. We've been doing virtual programming since then and are hoping to get back on the road this fall. So we have a lot to make up. We have probably, Junious can tell us, but 10 or more countries that we've had to reschedule our visits to. So we're really looking forward to some in-person hip hop diplomacy. So you might wonder, why is the State Department interested in hip hop? Well, we'll be digging into this question during this conversation, but I'll give a kind of overview answer. Hip hop is known around the globe. It's probably the most listened to genre of music on earth. It was born in the USA and is closely associated with American culture. Hip hop is beloved by young people globally, and it enjoys much higher approval ratings than the US government. So for many people, hip hop is the very best thing about our country. So when the State Department sends, for example, Junious Brickhouse abroad, it is putting its best foot forward. And since Junious is an amazing dancer, I mean that literally. So with that, I actually want to turn to Junious for our first question. And Junious, you've performed and run hip hop programs in dozens of countries. I don't even know how many. It's the two of us have probably been to a dozen countries together. So when you go to a new country, how does hip hop and your connection to it as a practitioner smooth the way? What kind of doors does it open for you as a cultural ambassador?
You know, I really enjoy this this question, mostly because it's so layered, right? And I think to answer directly, it opens up so many doors. I will start with saying not just for like opportunities. I mean about doors to dialogue, you know, about the art forms and the cultures that are in the United States. My first international opportunity was actually as a soldier. I had a NATO assignment and I was stationed in Heidelberg, Germany. I ended up being there for about 8 years, not just as a soldier, but also as a performing artist. So time and time again, there were all of these questions to balance what people would learn from videos and from newspapers and what was actually going on in communities of practice in the United States. So as an artist and as a person who's from these communities of practice, it allowed us to actually explore a little bit what's similar about us, what's different about us, and led to a lot of opportunities to connect in a deeper way. So I can say I'm really blessed in that way. I think that I had already a lot of doors open for me from the US government, you know, so it's good to be able to go to different spaces and definitely connect in a different way and through art and through hip hop specifically.
Thank you, Junious. I mean, I've seen it so many times where we'll go to a place and meet people for the first time, and they will essentially present our hip hop credentials, and you know, it just changes the whole mood in the room, and suddenly you're talking about your favorite music, your favorite artists. Maybe you even start making some music or dancing together. So I mean, it really is a kind of immediate bridge builder, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think particularly with movement, when you're trying to communicate across languages, it can get complex, you know, but here we are in someone else's environment, sometimes speaking different languages. But with hip hop, there's these common understandings, these codes, and people know them, you know, so we're listening to the same music, we're singing together, we're dancing together. The magic, though, is when all of that stops. You know, we have something that, a beginning point, so to speak, you know, of how we continue a deeper understanding of each other. And that's the goal, right? You know, aside from cultural diplomacy work, you know, we actualize in different ways. But when we encounter other people, we want to kind of see ourselves in each other. You know, we want to find a way to have a deeper, more meaningful connection and less performative.
Yeah, and you made a really important point, and we could talk about this more as well. But one thing about just cultural diplomacy and artistic diplomacy is that you can kind of both supplement and bypass language. So one thing that both Jemimah and Double M do is they perform in art forms that don't have to use spoken or written language. So Double M can beatbox to someone in a language that he doesn't understand, but they can actually understand each other. Jemimah can dance with people who she can't communicate with in spoken language, but they immediately connect with each other. It's incredibly powerful. So actually, let me turn to you, Jemimah, and I want to ask you about your connection to hip hop. So you're Nigerian, and you are a dancer familiar with a variety of different dance styles. What was it about hip hop and American dance forms that appealed to you? And just kind of as a follow-up, do you see connections between the hip hop dances that you practice and love and Nigerian dances that you also practice and love?
Okay, thank you, Mark, for that question. What did I love about hip hop? For me, it was the attitude, it was the style, it was the confidence. I grew up as a very shy child, but I could express myself with hip hop. I could express myself with dancing. And here in Nigeria, we're actually very influenced. I knew a lot about America through the music, through the movement. And so it was very much part of my upbringing. And so every time I listened to hip hop music, it was boosting my confidence. It was helping me express myself. And it just mirrored around everything I was doing around me. Back in school, I'll hold dance parties, I'll hold battles, and it was all influenced by this movement, young people being confident, expressing themselves and communicating. So for years, it has really been that for me, being that tool of communication and really boosting my confidence as a person and also helping others do the same. Because as I grew up, I found out that, this is a tool that can change a lot of people. And I decided to go that route, connect with more people using this very tool of hip hop. And then when it comes to the Nigerian dances, yes, for me, we have our own Afro and Niger dance craze and Afro beats movement, which really has strong ties with hip hop, because one of the things that influenced hip hop was also the young people back then trying to find an identity for themselves. And so we have that there's a whole place called Ajegunle here in Lagos, Nigeria, that influenced that movement as well. So you'll see it in the movement that it's about, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to form something that will connect with the world. And so being part of both worlds for me has been great, because right now I have my hip hop and I have my Afro, and right now I see it as one, because I'm not just a hip hop dancer, I'm not just an Afro dancer, I'm a dancer that communicates with this confidence language that I've received from both worlds. And it shows in a lot of the Nigerian movements that we have. So it's easy for an Afro dancer to connect with hip hop, and it's easy for an American hip hop dancer to connect with the Nigerian Afro dancer, because we're saying the same things at a particular time most of the time. And yeah, so
that's
that basically.
And
yeah.
and of course, we are very much influenced by Nigerian culture, and it's a powerhouse in the world in terms of music and film. So there's a lot of connections to be made. So thank you, Jemimah. I want
Thank
to
you.
turn to you, Double M. We came to Morocco in 2017, so it's now been a few years, and I wonder if you could remember back to when you heard about Next Level coming to your country. What were some impressions that you had or thoughts about seeing a hip hop program coming from the U.S. and sponsored by the U.S. government? Oh, Double M, can you unmute?
My bad. Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
So first, I've been going to that festival that was happening in McNass Mood for like over 4 or 5 years. Like every year, I would go to that festival, and then the residency, the Next Level residency, was partnered with that festival, and it was happening during that festival in McNass City. So when I saw the call that they gave us to come to join the residency as well, I was very excited because we always knew that as hip hop artists, we always knew that hip hop was born in USA, and what is more better way than receiving knowledge and informations about hip hop from real US hip hop artists. So it was a good opportunity for us to exchange cultures, know more about the real hip hop culture, because we have it kind of not figured out here in Morocco or in North Africa in general. But we kept sticking to things that thought were right, and then the guys just came into McNass, and then we had a crazy 10 days residency where we learned a lot about each other. We performed together, we made projects together, we sang together, we did everything together, and then it felt special. I was not expecting that much of fun and knowledge from the residency, but it turned out to be one of the greatest experience of my life, because after that I was just selected for the Next Level Global to go to the USA. And literally, honestly, at my age, 21 years old, I wouldn't have never thought about going to USA, because here in our brain, going to USA, you need to be like a businessman, you need to have a lot of money, you need to be like powerful in the government to go to like vacation on USA. But as a hip hop artist that's mainly focusing about music and hip hop, at 21 years old, going to USA was like, it was not even a dream. That's how impossible it was for me. It was not even in my dreams. So it just came, and it is still one of the best experience I've ever had in my life, and I would never have better. I assure you, because just talking about it brings back a lot of good memories that makes me instantly happy. So it's very grateful to do this.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And I remember you being here, and it was actually, you were in this room with me. You signed the wall on the opposite side of me. He went to a barbecue in North Carolina, and saw so many things. And actually, it's a perfect segue to what I want to ask both of you next, which is to say a little bit about your experiences in the U.S. during your 2 weeks. So let me go to Jemimah and then come back to Double M and see if you want to add anything. But Jemimah, you had actually been to the U.S. once before, I understand. But can you tell us a little bit about what stayed with you about that visit, and what was distinctive about the 2 weeks that you spent through the Next Level Global program?
Okay. So first of all, I'd been to the US about two times before, but it was always a struggle. It was always a struggle. I had to save a lot just to get myself there. And it was all about connecting with this experience, with the hip hop experience, trying to connect with the culture and how I can tell stories with the culture. So one of the things that Next Level Global did for me was really, it made my work easier. I had made up my mind to expand the knowledge and experience that I was having to a lot of people in the community, but I wasn't getting enough support. So coming to the US, thanks to the Next Level team, was really a booster for me. It helped me do the work I'm doing right now much more, will I say, fluidly. And just meeting with everyone really inspired me. I met with a lot of other, hip hop artists that shared their stories, and I got to see a different side of the art. I got to see a different side of the art that helped me also plan differently for the programs that I was already doing. I also loved the fact that, I had a program that was called For the Love of Hip Hop here in Nigeria. And it was basically celebrating hip hop and what we loved about it and trying to connect to the roots. But after that program, I came back with a whole different level of inspiration. And from being just a one-day program, I turned it into a 3-day program that was not only about sharing the hip hop experience anymore. It was literally about building entrepreneurship. It was building a conflict transformation tools, that I had learned from this experience when I was in the US for the 2 weeks program. And so it took me from like one level that I was with my program to 10 levels faster. And I saw a bigger picture of community development using hip hop. So I think those were the major things that I experienced. And of course, I enjoyed the culture as well. I mean, I was privileged to also talk and meet with some diplomats and some people working there in the US Department of State and share my story. So that was a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jemimah. Great memories of your visit. Double M, can you just tell us, I think this would be interesting for people watching. What was just one aspect of American culture that stuck with you or surprised you when you came here? Oh, and please unmute.
I always forget that. I'm sorry. When I went to USA for the Next Level Global program, I was surprised at the rate of access to the culture is in USA comparing to Morocco. I'm talking specifically about hip hop, because here in Morocco you don't have the access to the hip hop culture unless you know somebody or you follow someone that knows somebody, or it's kind of difficult. It's like getting better these past 5 years, but it was always a struggle to get access to the culture. So when I went to USA, the most amazing thing was how easy you can access to hip hop through programs or schools. We went to the Scratch Academy in New York, and basically we had like 1 week to live in that Scratch Academy. And just to think about, there is a Scratch Academy in New York, and in Morocco we don't have even like not a specific school for hip hop or something academic for hip hop or something to learn. You just gotta learn it on the streets. So it was good, and then it helped me a lot during my experience when I came back from the Next Level. I started working with Positive School of Hip Hop, which was the first hip hop school in Morocco, and then I implemented a lot of knowledge I got from my experience in USA. And I give you one quick example. I remember the workshop we had with Conscious DMC. It was about conflict resolution, and we did an exercise where we had to trust each other. Like I am blindfolded, and the cameraman should guide me just through his voice through the room. And we did a bunch of other exercises to help us construct a good harmony between our work. And I used this while I was teaching a cappella and beatbox and singing and performing on stage. I use this with the students I have, and it works very well. So this is one example of the many things I did. And I would not just forget about how I met one of the major person in the beatbox culture, which is Derek Cross. He's one of the pioneers of the story of beatboxing. So when I read about beatboxing, I saw his name, I went to see his videos, and I met him in USA. So it was like a change in idea for, because beatboxing here in Morocco is just making noise with our mouth. It's not a culture. It's just somebody who's making noise. So knowing about the culture, visiting, the 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, which was the birthplace. We did so many crazy things that I cannot recall. Like I can recall so many that it is, as I told, is making me happy talking about them.
Oh, well, thanks, Double M. So many great experiences, but I will say, for me as an American, it was just wonderful to accompany these international artists through New York and through the Bronx, the birthplace of hip hop, and see it through their eyes. I mean, they, and really regain an appreciation for, or strengthen my own appreciation for hip hop. I want to turn to Junious now and ask about something that we're doing right now, which is cultivating long-term relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We were in in these countries a few years ago. We're only there for 2 weeks and then we leave. Why is it important for us, for the U.S., to continue the kind of relationships that we have with people like Jemimah and Double M?
There's the part of that is program specific, like what we aim to do at Next Level, and then there is what's actually happening in the exchange, something that both Jemimah and Double M have touched on, is this idea of sustainability. How do we do this in our countries, like in our communities? How do we continue to do that? Here in the United States, one of the things that a lot of the people who are involved with Next Level are thinking about is heritage. How do we pass this on, and where do we come from, and what fuels this thing that's in us that created hip hop culture, right? And with these two artists particular, this is what the diaspora looks like, full scope, and the reciprocity in that is just beautiful. Like I get to connect with artists from Morocco, from Nigeria, and learn not just about contemporary art forms and ways of thinking in their communities, but I also get to learn about cultural things, what makes them who they are, and how does that impact me, and one of the things that I'm happy that we got a chance to do with particularly with Double M is we got a chance to visit Stagville, the former plantation in Durham, North Carolina, and really take a deep dive into this thing when we're talking about the African American experience. These kind of experiences, like they don't come every day, and when we connect with artists, the whole goal is to stay connected. What is it to waste, people and the time that you spend with them? So we may as well bond and connect and learn. And for a longer, at a larger pace, Mark, what does our canon look like internationally for hip hop culture? Like, is it just the origin story of New York and the United States, or do we have a larger story to tell? And this programming like this allows us to do that. So, I mean, the individual is important, and the power of us coming together it's everything. So I think for me, as a person who grew up in these communities as a young child, if somebody would have told me at 47 that I would be traveling the world, not only talking about this thing, but being a part and accepted in other communities across languages and cultural forms, it's something, and that's the reciprocity. That's what Jemimah and Double M and all the other participants do for us. It's not just we get to provide something for them. you know, to enjoy. It's like we are becoming fulfilled. We are actualizing as hip hop artists. So I don't know who's got the best deal here, you know, like, but I'm pretty happy with these experiences.
Well, that's the whole idea behind the concept of mutuality. And you know, there's a part of this that serves the specific goals of the program and of ECA and the State Department of continuing to build bridges and build goodwill. But there's also part of it that transcends that. I mean, we're just friends now. And I spend in any given week chatting with people all over the world about what they're doing and collaborating. And I'm not doing that because the program dictates it. It's because that's what's come out of this program. And it's certainly, I would say, one of the main ways that we gauge the success of this program is not how much people liked it, in the 2 weeks we were there, but what is continuing? What are the lasting impacts? So actually, I want to, because we could keep talking about this for a long time, but I want to make sure that we hear some music and see some dance. So I'd like to turn now to some short performances, and we'll start with Jemimah, and we have a video of her, and perhaps we could have that queued up now, of her both speaking but also performing, and it's a great collage of her work. So let's go ahead and listen to that, watch that.
Hi, my name is Jemimah Angulu. I'm the artistic director and the founder of the Crump Dance Studios. I'm also the Nigeria partner for Next Level and a Next Level Global alumni. It has been a privilege being part of this network, and one of the advantages that I've been able to have is to be able to go deeper into the community work I've been doing at the Crump Dance Studios. Dance for us is a tool for community change. And for 10 years, we've done this through various partnerships and programs we have initiated. Our goal is to refine the dancer, equip them to be able to do what they need to do to also be effective agents to the community, and use dance and creative means to connect to people. Our goal is also to ensure that we're bringing the culture of dance fitness, dance training, and dance production and entertainment to our community. On the beat,
everybody call me Wonder. As I enter with my music, I just strike like thunder. No under. Estimate the agenda. On my wonder, be closing this from globe to mountain to conga. In the minute, my name is Father, I play donkey. If you like this song, then maybe you are not a monk. I'll do Robbie Mario, I'll go Arabi so. I don't find my chance, I go somebody. If you've never heard of me, you've never had a nothing. Certified and guaranteed, I'll always give you something. It is not enough for you to sit down and be done. It's not enough for you to sit down and be done. You must be hungry to sit down and be done. You must be worried to sit down and be done. You must be
Wonderful, thank you, Jemimah. And that last performance was in New York during your visit. So thank you for that. Let's turn to Double M. Double M, you're going to do something live for us, is that right?
Yes, absolutely right. So I'm gonna do some beatboxing for you, and then I'm gonna do a quick song on the loop station. And to explain to you the entire deal about the loop station, if you don't know about it already, it allows me to add effects to my voice. So I can add reverb, I can sound like this, or I can add some robotic sounds, or I can add some bass line. But the most important thing is that it can loops the track. So whatever I say, it can repeat it. Whatever I say, it can repeat it. Whatever I say, it can repeat it. And then it goes on, go on. So I can create an entire track out of it just to prove it's 100% made by my sounds, my coming from my mouth, my nose. So let's give it a try.
Double M, I can't, we can't hear you.
Oh, I guess I figured the problem is in Zoom there is noise cancellation, I guess. So that's why suppression of echo. I'm gonna give it another try and tell me if it's good.
Okay, I'll give you a thumbs up if it works.
All right, do it. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Oh, bird flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. And breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. And for me, yeah, and I'm feeling new dawn. It's whoa, and I'm feeling good. Yeah, I keep on falling in it out of love with you. I've never
do you give me so much pleasure? Give me so much pain. I keep on falling in it. I would have loved with you. I've never loved someone the way that I love you. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Yes.
Thank you, Double M. That was amazing. What a pleasure it is to be able to see and hear these incredible artists. It does give me hope that these virtual exchanges, even though they're not quite the same as in person, still can accomplish a lot. So thank you both. I want to thank all of you for your conversation. We'll continue in just a moment, but I want to turn this over now to Adam, who will be running the Q&A for us. So thank you, Adam.
And thank you, Mark. We have some questions already. We've been talking about reciprocity. We've been talking about exchanges, talking about music, the role of culture. But first, let's go to Washington and our Public Diplomacy Council colleague, Larry Schwartz, who has a bit of context for all this from the perspective of the State Department and also a comment from London. So Larry, over to you.
Thanks, Adam. Look, I'm really never done much work with hip hop in the past myself. But I've done over a period of more than 35 years, I guess, a lot of work with cultural diplomacy and cultural exchange. And one of the things that happened to me as I got more and more senior in the department was I realized that there were two pressures working on us in this whole area of cultural diplomacy. We'd started many years ago with jazz. We'd also done lots of other things in dance and painting, other fine arts. And one of the things that our congressional paymasters were continually asking, well, yes, we do want you to have these exchanges between people and cultures. Our government does support cultural exchanges and the fine arts and other areas. But what are you doing for us in our foreign policy? And so this was kind of a concern for many of us. How do we not just go out and touch people here and there around the world and bring them to the States like Jemimah and Double M and these programs where they got to meet all these people and it seemed so easy and wonderful for them. We all know that the people at Meridian did a lot of work to make sure that they could get in to see these people. So, I mean, it's a very complicated structure under which these big programs for the arts exist. Anyway, my own experience was I was a deputy assistant secretary in the Middle East Bureau, and one of my main concerns was the explosion of interest among young people in North Africa with ISIS, with Daesh, as we call it. And one of the things that was so scary for us was here was this nihilistic and negative, destructive ideology that was taking over the minds of young people when they had so much to live for and their futures were actually so bright. So I asked my colleagues who were out in the field, what can we do about this problem? And so I just had Michael Macy, who's also here on the line, piped up from Tunis and said, you know, there are a lot of kids here who really like hip hop. And I said, oh, hip hop? Come on, really? Oh yeah, you know. So he nagged me about it actually, and we actually went to ECA and we supported this kind of programming. So I'll let Michael take it from there.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, I think I had worked with hip hop acts before. I'd presented them as when I was cultural attaché in places like Delhi and even to some extent Riyadh. And anyway, in Tunisia, we were trying to figure out how do we offer an alternative to ISIS? How do you, and hip hop culture plays an integral part in the life of Tunisia's young people. It played a real role in the Arab Spring, and hip hop artists had a particular prominence, but we also had to learn how to work with them. We had to learn how to work with the people who had credibility. There were people, hip hop artists, one rapper who had gone to the dark side and had gone to work for ISIS. There was another couple of them had gone to the States and gone to the UK and just basically sold out. But we saw hip hop as a real alternative culture for young people. It's not just it's an art form, but it's much deeper. And it asks things from people. And that's really one of the appeals of extremism and ISIS, is that it challenges young people to contribute to something. And if no one else is asking, then the only people recruiting are going to get the recruits. And so we started to work with artists, with hip hop artists in Tunisia. And we said, okay, and again, it was building trust from both sides. They said, you're the US government, and we're not sure we trust you. We said, well, give us a chance. We'll work with you, and we won't tell you what to say. We'll just provide you with the opportunity and the stage to say it from. So we set up a program where they would go to a place, they would find a prominent wall to do graffiti on, they would do other forms of hip hop, and then they would challenge the young people to make some contribution to their community. They wound up painting schools, they wound up redecorating children's wards in hospitals, replanting gardens. But the core around all of which this was built was hip hop. The community organization that we worked with had been founded as a way to give voices to young people. So eventually they did a tour with recording equipment and went all over the country to find young performers who never would have been offered the opportunity to really present their art beyond a very limited audience in their home communities. So we eventually wound up doing these huge graffiti portraits of who the young people in those communities thought were their heroes. And they did a medieval doctor in one city, and they did a kickboxer in another. They did a young woman who had trained as a math teacher and became a shepherd because she said, okay, I can't get a job teaching. I will do something. And then there was also the victim of terrorists who was killed in the mountains for refusing to give them information. And all of these people became life-size portraits in graffiti in cities throughout Tunisia. And every one of those events was tied to young people being empowered by contributing. And it was, we had a voice in designing it, but we didn't implement it. Al Maqsan, a community center in Tunis, did it under the direction of a great director, a guy named Muhammad Ali Benjama, or Dali Benjama as he goes when he raps. And then another guy was a guy named Red Star Reddy, who wanted nothing to do with the US. He didn't trust us. He said, you're going to tell me what I have to say. He also did one of the most beautiful raps I've ever heard, which was a letter to his son saying, I hope life will be better for you. So we said, okay, you trust us. We sent him to the States with a group of other hip hop artists from Tunisia, and we provided him with support and never dictated what he said. He could say whatever he wanted. And at the end of this, he said, okay, I see what you're trying to do. You just want to offer young people a voice and an alternative to extremism in a way that they can be of service. So anyway, and again, it taught me the power of hip hop. Hip hop is a language, it's a culture. It's not just an art form. It's much richer, much deeper, and plays a much greater role in the lives of young people, and certainly played a key role in the lives of young people in Tunisia.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks.
Back to you, Adam.
Thanks to you both. And now we get to questions, and we have one which is rather interesting, sort of a challenge. The world revolves around music and culture. How can media do a better job of getting the story out, or what stories should they be covering? I'll open that to anyone.
Well, I'll just say something briefly, which is that it's a delicate dance, I'll say, because it's, first of all, it's wonderful to hear from Larry and Michael about how they see the value of hip hop, but not everyone, either in the State Department or in Congress who funds the State Department, sees the value of hip hop. So we've had to be a little careful about just how well known this program is, because some people who might not understand how hip hop can do good might be offended by this or see this as a poor use of taxpayer money. And so it's actually very tricky. And what I would say is, if we could focus on the really positive stories that come out of hip hop, highlight, some of the people that are on this call today, Junious and Jemimah and Double M, and show what they've been able to do, through these programs, I think that would be very helpful. But we also have to be careful, because not everyone feels the same as strongly as we do about the positive power of hip hop.
Interesting. Related, what's the broader impact of hip hop diplomacy in raising the profile of people-to-people diplomacy in the broader State Department?
I almost think I should pass that on to someone in the State Department, if anyone wants to answer that, because we're doing our best to just deliver a great program, and then I think it's I'd be interested in hearing what some of the diplomats on this call think about how to get this raising the profile within the State Department.
I don't know if anybody's going to jump in. We have another question from.
Well, Michael Macy
wait a minute.
raised his hand.
I see Larry turning his camera on. I see Michael Macy. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Larry, you go first. And also, I wanted to. We eventually, obviously, convinced Larry that he should support this, and without that support, we wouldn't have done anything. So.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just look. Again. You guys are all lovers of hip hop. There are other people that love ballet. There are other people that love jazz. I mean, there are other people who love everything, and they want to, I don't know, take it abroad and have an experience, or have their friends from around the world join them. And this is all good. This strengthens American culture. This strengthens the world's sort of global growth of global vision. And it's good. It serves our national interests. So it's not a problem to tell Congress and others that this kind of diplomacy, there's no, the most important thing is that cultural diplomacy has a role in our larger diplomacy. But we have to recognize that we share it, not just hip hop, but also with all these other forms of artistic expression that Americans love. And it's as much a part of America as, our computers or our government or our military or other things. And it's really essential that we keep that in our diplomacy. And I think most American diplomats are convinced that there is a role in public diplomacy in dealing with the rest of the world, not just with mutual understanding, but with advancing the open expression of creativity that America has as a part of its own heartbeat through our diplomacy. So it's a safe thing. I admit that sometimes hip hop is a little dicey for some people, but as long as it's well centered in the broader American cultural expression, I think it's been very successful. Mike, go ahead.
Part of it too is just what works. What's the objective of public diplomacy? It's to communicate and hopefully change behavior, change people's attitude and reaction and behavior towards the United States, to build mutual understanding. Well, I always try to choose the mechanism that works. In Tunisia, it was hip hop. It was such a deep part of youth culture. That's not always the case. In some places, it might be the spoken word. In other places, it might be heavy metal. It depends on where you're working. You find something that resonates. Now, hip hop kind of resonates all over the world. So you'd be hard pressed to find a place where there isn't a hip hop audience. But you got to make sure that's the audience that you want to talk to. So I think it's I shouldn't say it's an easy sell, but as Larry said, Congress will buy it as long as we show how effective it is. And hip hop is particularly effective. The only type of program I ever got criticized for and was stand-up comedy, which we also used a lot to counter extremism. And that wound up getting criticized in Congress, which I never quite understood. But hip hop, again, you've got a huge audience, and it's pretty easy to show how effective it is to use that as a forum.
I see a raised hand in Abuja, Jemimah. I think
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to point out just one thing, contributing to what Michael Macy said. The beautiful thing about hip hop, why it's particular, is because it comprises of different things. So hip hop is not just the rap, it's not just the music, it's a dance, it's the culture and clothing, words. So there's also the spoken words with hip hop. There's also the production, the graffiti. So it has a lot of tools in its box. And I'm not being biased. I actually also admire other art forms, but I just wanted to point out in particular, one of the uniqueness of hip hop is that it's not just one thing. It's a combination of things that help the human being express in fullness, different kinds of languages, and I just wanted to add that to what he said about what works. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a question which I think Jemimah, you and Double M would be able to address, which is 30 years ago, I was an executive producer at Quincy Jones Entertainment, and hip hop was relatively new coming out of the Bronx. How did it become this worldwide phenomenon?
I'm more than glad to answer that question. I don't think that there's just one answer. I think there's many reasons why. One that I can attest to is people. We are not our governments, right? So in any given situation, you may have a government that has a particular stance. As people, as individuals, we may not agree. So I think hip hop has had that power. It's being that it is the voice of marginalized people. If you just start there and you look globally of people who identify as being on the periphery or being marginalized or being poor and wanting better for themselves and for their families, then we have a topic of discussion. We have one way in, and that is what I love about hip hop diplomacy, because this allows us to connect with people, sometimes in their most vulnerable forms. People asking to be heard and seen. And frankly, I don't think that governments can do that like subject matter experts from communities who have lived experiences can do when they connect with someone who says, do you hear me? Do you see me? What can we create together? So I'd like to say that is something that I've experienced in hip hop diplomacy.
And Jemimah, I see your hand raised again. Oh, and also Double M. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll just sneak in one quick one. Talking about how hip hop spread, coming from someone from Africa, I'd say definitely the media played a big role because, you know, it's a huge part. If we don't see it, if we don't feel it, if we don't hear it, we can't connect with it. But because hip hop is also a conscious language, just like Junious pointed out, it's very easy to connect to. It speaks about the truth. So even if I hear something and it doesn't connect to me, then I may not be able to relate with it that much. So I think it's really about the fact that it's a conscious art form as well. And so it wasn't just about people rapping in New York or whatever city they were in. We could hear and experience the same stories where we were at. And that definitely made it spread like wildfire. And you have to say it, hip hop is cool. It's naturally cool, so it's attractive. It's and then so there were some cultural experiences that I had, you know. I mean, just yesterday I was listening to a true story of a hip hop artist, very famous entertainer that we all know, Will Smith. You know, it was his story, but I remembered every single thing they were talking about because I experienced it, even if I was in another city, from you know, a fan point of view, from his music. I listened to it, you know, and like the moments they decided to, I remember when they took a stand, you know, not to go to some awards because they were trying to pass on a message. I also knew that part, you know, so it's really about the consciousness, the message, and hip hop standing for the community that also makes it connect, like, you know, and go around the world really fast. Thank you.
Thank you. The double M.
Well, I wanted to add a quick something about how I would answer this question in my point of view. Not a lot of countries got freedom of speech, and not every other country that has freedom of speech does not work the same. So it is somehow controlled, somehow forbidden. But the way I see it, that hip hop was the you know, the easy access of freedom of speech for everyone in the entire world, because everybody in the planet got problems and everybody wants some kind of revolution, either against themselves or against somebody else or against the system or against whatever. Everyone in this world needed to stand for something, but hip hop was, you know, the easy tool. Whether we're talking about rapping or beatboxing or dancing or DJing or beat making or whatever, it's related to music, and people enjoy music. And what's better way to express what they feel and they want to change through music. So for me, that's one way for me that helps reach hip hop, that reaches the entire part of the world, because everyone can relate to it. But this is in general, and there is a small part where the hip hop culture changes based on the nation culture. In the USA culture, the culture of hip hop is one thing. We have another culture of hip hop based on our understanding, our religious aspect, our traditional aspect, and in each country there is a different. So like people took hip hop as a base for what they're gonna build as ideas and art and creations afterward. So and that for me is a tool of expression, and people wanted that so far away before medias, because when we say old school, when we say old days, even in our country, we didn't have a lot of media, but people knew about hip hop throughout, like, you know, those CDs or cassette or whatever the old things was, and they started to imitate and express themselves. And we really have some old music that talks about human rights, talks about poverty, talks about the system, and it was like in 20 or 98 or something like that, and that really still touch the Moroccan culture. So yeah, that's what I got to say about it.
Related question: can we generalize about where hip hop culture and music are especially popular? Is it especially popular in the Muslim world? Is it especially popular in Sub-Saharan Africa? Is there one place where, or are there places where it is more popular than others?
Talking about Morocco, if we should compare like just one thing of hip hop, is we just compare rap, because it's the most known hip hop elements in the entire world, because in the entire universe there is rappers that raps about something. Either it's fame, either it's ego trip, it's either it's society, either it's problem, it's storytelling, but there is people rapping like too many rappers in the entire universe. And for them, it's when I said it's tool of expression, the message can change based on the culture, based on the religion, because you can still be religious and do hip hop if you know what you are doing with your hip hop, if you know your path, if you're respecting your limits, if you're doing the things the right way. But also there is, the mainstream music, the industry is growing, but there's also, the rappers who rap, send messages in their text. And in Morocco, there is a big amount of famous rappers that are gaining so much money and fame in mainstream music, and it's growing. But also there is for me, the most conscious part and the knowledge part of it, it's still existing in every place in the world. So that wouldn't make any difference for me because of religion or culture. It would just make it more special, like different variation of hip hop or different variation of rap or beatbox or dancing or DJing. So each culture gave hip hop a special taste of their local community. So it is such a good way to see them all. And I kind of envy Junious because he visited a lot of countries, seeing all those cultural. I call it the cultural shock, when when two cultures bump to each other, and it creates a beauty of an art. So I would like to do that one day.
Junior, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just in all of my travels, Adam, I have to say that, without even showing people and telling people that I'm an artist, at times people will just look at you and know. They can tell by the way you dress or something that you're wearing, and they just get it, and people just start to have a conversation and introduce themselves. And in all the places that I've been, I guess, if you ask everybody, like you did a call and said, stand up if you feel like you have the dopest hip hop scene globally, a lot of people will stand up, and that's something that I love and I enjoy with this type of work. But I think it's important to know that although people see hip hop and its origins in the United States, it is very much so the cultural identity for a lot of people who are in conflict with their own situations. And, that's no different than I was in the early 80s, as a young child. That was my conflict. I had a conflict with the world that I did not understand. And I had a conflict with the world that I was living in, and I wanted to transcend that. So that was my goal. So people are doing the same thing, like globally. And I'm afraid that if I say what scene is my favorite scene, I'd probably get myself in trouble. So I'm gonna refrain from that question. But I will say that one of the most beautiful things about hip hop is that where it lives, it exists in the way that communities get it, and that's something that we hope, at Next Level, that we can understand. It's not just about an origin story or going back and saying this is where it's from. Hip hop is a living tradition. You know, it's living, it's alive, and it's growing. And I say to a lot of my students and my colleagues, for me, hip hop is like a decent relationship. You know, if you love them, you love them enough to let them grow. You know, it's not going to be the same as when you met them, you know, and that's what makes us unique. And that idea that I can keep my mind open to someone else's experience and the way that they interpret who I am and how I exist in their community is one step closer to the type of truth and reconciliation that a lot of us hope.
Well, I know we're getting near the end, but I see a question over in chat from, I hope if he doesn't mind if I identify the questioner, Todd Cochran in Los Angeles, asking, in America, the commodification of the art form parallels the creativity. How does the instinctive impulse for originality stay ahead of the consumption? Junious, I see you nodding.
I will go right in. the urgency of now cannot be emphasized more. When we talk about codification of things and how hip hop culture has popularized, that's what we wanted. You know, that's what people wanted. They wanted to put their name on trains and see it in other boroughs and say, I am famous. People know me there. We wanted that, you know, and I think to this day, we still struggle on how we share this and keep some of the essence of the things that we love. But this is the whole point of, you know, these cultural art forms is to exist, you know, and to exist in a way that we can connect to it. And, you know, I just have to refer back to, you know, the last statement I made. It's like, you know, these are living traditions and they're gonna grow. And we can spend our time like arguing about where it's from and that it stays there. Trust me, it's still there. Here in the United States, we have not lost, we haven't lost control of our own cultures and what we love as far as hip hop goes. But I do think we can spend more time figuring out how we can build a larger understanding, a more unified understanding of how these art forms live in other places and how they impact their lives. And I think that brings us closer together simply.
Well, thank you, Junious, Jemimah, Double M, Mark, Larry, Michael, quite a discussion, very rich. And to answer one other question that came up, I believe I see the recording symbol is on, and I believe that this recording will be made available in a day or two. And so it will be yet another audience. So thanks to you all. And now to the President of the Public Diplomacy Council, Sherry Muller.
Thank you, Adam, and special thanks to Junious and Double M and Mima for your contributions to a very fascinating program. Mark, I want to say a special thank you to you by holding up your book. Not only thank you for today, but thank you for writing a really phenomenal chapter in American cultural diplomacy. And Junious, you mentioned that one of the appeals of hip hop is that it's popular with marginalized communities. And there's one line in Mark's book at the very end that captures this so well. Mark, you wrote, "It is an art for those who were not given a seat at the table, but have the nerve to show up with a folding chair." Now, I thought that was just such a wonderful way to capture the real drama and outreach of this. So thanks to you all, Adam, for today's program. I want to share a little bit about what's coming up. Ambassador Greta Morris recruited Bei Fong, president of Radio Free Asia, for a program that USC and PDAA and PDC members will be part of as well on April 15th at noon Eastern Time. And the president of Radio Free Asia will be focusing on the critical role of that entity in Asia and the Pacific region. And for our next first Monday, which will be May 3rd, John Maxwell Hamilton, author of Manipulating the Masses, Woodrow Wilson, and the Birth of American Propaganda, will be sharing his scholarship on the Creel Committee, the Committee for Public Information, what many call the very first US public diplomacy effort around World War I that resonates a lot for what's happening to us today. Thanks to our program participants, and thanks to each of you in the audience for your wonderful questions and interest in First Monday forums. We'll see you next month. Bye for now.